see it on Sports and GTO. Buffering heavily here. Mine's buffering, but this is mine. Pick up here is horrible.
Well, folks, good day to you one and all, and great to have you here with us this evening. Wednesday night, doing what we love best, the iRacing MSA Porsche Cup Series 2023. Round number 6 of the 2023 season. Myself, Gary Fleming from Second Year Productions, with ably assisted by Frankie Innes, the voice of West Promise Motorsport, and he's already rubbing his hands together. He's had a chance to watch the practice session, loves what he sees. Frankie, Autodromo Nazionale Monza. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Gaza. We come to you from Milan, or well, they say the city of Monza, but that's not far from Milan, from the Temple of Speed, and we are at Monza with the outside temperature 22 degrees, clear skies, 8 km/h winds, track temperature is high, 37 degrees, just over 5.75 kilometers long, and 183 meters above sea level.
Well, probably one of the most iconic circuits that there is out there in worldwide motorsport. And I must say, before we started with iRacing, I didn't really know all of the tracks, but as time has gone by, we've gone to all these different iconic circuits, and you get to know all the names of the corners and what have you. So it's just come more alive for us, and then obviously I get the opportunity to drive a little bit as well, so you get to know the circuits, and every time you go back to one that you've done before, it just makes it so much more interesting. Out there on screen, Jaco Steyn, the man that puts it all together for us in the iRSA 88 car. His best friends out there as well. That's Jaco Foster, and he's working his way around on his warm-up lap. Then we've got Robbie Teens out there. There's the Circuit de Monza. Robbie Ting's busy doing his warm-up lap. Low Wrigley, the man that made it possible for us to go live last week with a little fun event. Ati Nagel out there as well, and he's in the Team Jesus 911 Porsche.
Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago when we had that fun event that Luke Lecchese set up for us for bigger things to come. That is Peter van Sale, that's out there with the 33 car, busy working his way around. That's coming out Parabolica and working his way down the main straight towards that very first kink. And then we see Yas Samai busy working his way around with that number 7 Porsche of his, Yas Samai. And then we have got the Verizon car, that's Mark Devereaux, that's busy working his way around the Monza racetrack.
Coming out onto the circuit, that's Wayne Masters. He's got the exact same color as what Herman Lazarus has got. The only difference between the two, he's got the blue and white blocks at the bottom. And if we're going to have a look at Herman's car, you'll see cheapercars.co.za. And then if it's black, frankly, there's only one man that can be.
That's a 99 car of Johan Engelbrecht, busy circulating the Monza circuit. Is Johan. There is the 86 car, that's Rainier Hubert in the Wild Rose Gin outfit, busy working his way around the Monza circuit. And then Willem Pinaar in the 57 car, that's the Castrol car, the Castrol GTX car.
Well, it looks like Yas Samai is coming down towards the last corner, and he'll work his way through. That's the Parabolica, and he'll work his way out into the front main. He'll probably be the first person that's going to put up a lap time, so even if it's only once, he's going to be in the front. It's going to be right now. There goes Yas Samai. Ooh, Herman Lazarus goes across the line as well, not far short of him. Herman Lazarus, Yas Samai, Jaco Steyn, Jaco Foster pops up and says good day, good day. Ati Nagel's in there as well, and well, Jaco Foster has gone to the front end of the grid. Low Wrigley up onto the second row of the grid. That's a pretty good one. Peter van Sale will be the next man to come through. Let's see what he can do. And nope, that must be his warm-up lap that he's on, because it's not going to put up a time for us. Rainier Hubert should be the next person coming across the line. Here comes Rainier Hubert. Ooh, onto the front row of the grid. That's pretty interesting stuff. Wayne Masters working his way around to complete his first lap. Yeah, he's just completed his first lap, so he hasn't put up a time for himself yet. Next man going to be coming through there will be probably Willem Pinaar in the Castrol car. Let's see where he can put himself in there. Let's have a look at the intervals between the guys.
P6 there for Willem Pinaar.
Yep. So there's only 4 guys that are within a second of one another. A lot of 2.1, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.5, 2.6. So from 5th down to 10th position, very, very close to one another. Ati Nagel has not put up a time yet. We're still waiting for him to come around. He's on his way. He's just come out of Ascari. He's on his way down towards Parabolica. So we'll see what kind of times he can do. Peter van Sale, he's a little bit further back. Ooh, he's using the whole track and a little bit more. And then we've still got Wayne Masters. And oh, he's still got a long way to go. He's on his way down towards Ascari underneath the bridge. Now you're into the Ascari bends like that. And remember those big sausage curves, 90 degrees to you as an oncoming car. Down the second last straight, down towards Parabolica. That is going to be interesting to see how that one's going to play itself out. Jaco Foster. Wow, that's quick. And Ati Nagel, exactly the same.
Yeah, that's what I was pointing at. Sorry, Gary. 0.000, exactly the same lap as Jaco Foster, Ati Nagel. So they have done exactly the same time. And then 5/10 of a second behind Foster is Wrigley. As a matter of fact, the first 6 cars are within a second of each other. That's Foster, Nagel, Wrigley, Samai, Hubert and Steyn.
So the only man that has not got a time up yet, and we're 6 minutes 58, call it 7 minutes into the session. Remember, it's 1 minute 54 a lap, so he's still got enough time to put in a lap time, and he's the only person so far that has not managed to put a lap time up. Herman Lazarus and Wayne Masters will be coming off the tail end of the pack, with Willem Pina and Johan Engelbrecht just in front of that. But I must say, there's a reasonable split between the guys, except for Jaco Forster and Atti Nagel. Maybe they were practicing together and they're using the exact same lines.
Well, I don't know, but I've never seen that before. So we wait for Pieter van Zyl. He's the 13th car out on track that hasn't put up any lap time yet. He's just worked his way out of Ascari and heading down that long straight towards Parabolica. That's the final corner. Renier Hubert has made his way into the pits as we watch Van Zyl working his way down into that final corner, and he should put up a time now with that 33 Porsche working his way out of Ascari pit lane on his right hand side. That's the home straight, and let's see where he puts that 33 car, and he is in P7 with a PB of a 151.347 for Pieter van Zyl.
So the guys at the front end are hammering it out. Jaco Steyn has gone into the pit lane, and let's see, he's driven his way into the pit, so we won't be able to see him from that position. There you can see he's standing up against the wall. Pieter van Zyl is, he just trying for that one last quickie, and that was turn number 1 that he went into, and he's got it completely mixed up at that point and couldn't go any further. So Atti Nagel, the fastest man out there, only by a tenth from Jaco Forster. So all things being equal, I do believe that Atti Nagel is going to be on the front row of the grid. Is Jaco Forster still out there? Yes, he is. So they might swap positions. Is Low Wrigley still out there? Yes, he is. Will he make time to finish the lap? Looking at where the start-finish line is, looking at 9 minutes and 5 seconds, yes, he will be able to finish that lap as well. So the question bodes now, can Low Wrigley actually work his way onto the front row of the grid? Yaz Samaya is still out there. Can Yaz do a catch-up? He looks like he's pretty much hammering it down towards Parabolica, so it's quite possible that Yaz Samaya can move himself up onto the second row of the grid. No, he's taking it easy. He's just on his way back to the pits.
Right, so he's making his way through. Here comes Jaco Forster, that is in that provisional second position, and he does a 150.686, so he stays a tenth of a second behind Atti Nagel. And here comes Low. That's the man we were looking for, and he moves up to that third position. Does Low Wrigley with a 150.647. That was his last lap, and 6/10 of a second behind Atti Nagel.
Well, that's cut-off time. That's where the action ends. Let's go and have a look at how that grid is going to play itself out. Atti Nagel, Jaco Forster, front row of the grid, and 1/10 of a second between them. That is between Zat, Zero, Nix, and Nala.
Yeah, then row 2, we've got Low Wrigley and Jaco Steyn. Row 3, Yaz Samaya and Renier Hubert. Row 4, Mark Devereaux, Pieter van Zyl. Row 5, Wayne Masters, Johan Engelbrecht. Row 6, Robbie Teings, Willem Pina. And all on his own, P13 in row 7 is Herman Lazarus.
Oh, there they are standing on the grid. They're just about good to go as soon as everybody's out there. Yaz Samaya, Mark Devereaux, Johan Engelbrecht and Willem Pina are still to join. That's the open gaps that there is out there. So Atti Nagel and Jaco Forster are going to be going 1-on-1 down towards turn number 1 with Low Wrigley, Jaco Steyn on the second row, Yaz Samaya, Renier Hubert on the third row. Mark Devereaux not clicked in yet. You can see on, there we go, he's in. Mark Devereaux, row number 4, Pieter van Zyl and Wayne Masters. Johan Engelbrecht, the black car is not there. You can see the gap just in front of the green car. And that being Willem Pina. That's the one that we're missing out on there. And he's the only one that hasn't come in. Johan Engelbrecht, let's hope he doesn't have connectivity problems, that he can't make it in. At this point, we're just waiting for him. Let's hope that they don't get off the grid before. There we go. Boom. They're all there.
Right, so we've got 13 cars, and this is going to be a standing start. The 4 lights, 5 lights, pause, off, and away they go. And a very slow start off the line there by Atti Nagel, and Jaco Forster is going to sneak up there on his inside as they make their way towards that very first little right-left chicane. Into that right-left chicane they go. We'll get the track map up for you now. And then the intervals at the end of the opening lap. And it is indeed Nagel that drops all the way down to that third position. So not a good start there for Atti Nagel. It's Low Wrigley that moves up into that second position with the Jakustein in P4 and Yasamai in P5. Just ahead of that man you see on screen there, Mark Devereaux.
So Jaco Forster having a good run off the line. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. The man that ran into a problem was in fact Peter van Zyl. That's the onboard view. It all looks quite fine up until there. Turns it in nicely. Just climbs on the loud pedal a little bit too hard. And that is what caused the incident. And yep, he was actually quite lucky that he wasn't turned around at that stage of the fight.
Well, I think he was busy turning around. He literally got helped back into a straight line again. So you should thank that guy, that's for sure. So it's all about Jaco Forster that sits out there in P1. He's 1.1 seconds ahead of Atti Nagel that's in that second position. Jaco Forster in the JV workshop car. There's the iRacing SA car, the 78 of Atti Nagel. That's in that second position. Jakustein has gone up into that third place. Low Wrigley was in third and then he's dropped back down into P4. You just see him there. He's that fourth car in that line, and then there comes the 7 car of Yasamai, and touch behind him is the 8 car in P6 of Mark Devereaux.
So they're still sitting pretty close to one another. Here we go. Jaco Forster. Oh, the game is on behind him. There goes Atti Nagel and Jakustein alongside one another. A very quick first lap there for Jaco Forster. 154.902. Down towards turn number 1, it's going to be Atti Nagel and Jakustein, and Jakustein's on the right side, and now he's on the wrong side, and that gives Atti Nagel that second position.
Right, that's the gaps between first and 13th. We'll put the intervals on for you now, and you can see exactly how close these guys are towards with each other. Have a look at that. There's not much between us third, fourth, and fifth. That's chasing down second position, man. Atti Nagel and Low Wrigley is there in that fourth position. He is right on the case there of Jakustein, who is on the case of Atti Nagel. There is Low in the 44 car. Right behind him in that 7 car is Yasamai. And Samai is 4/10 of a second there behind Wrigley. As you see them go down into Lesmo 1 and working their way now out of Lesmo 2. And then running slightly down that hill towards the bridge. That's the ancient oval that is legendary at the Monza circuit. Working their way now through Ascari. It's a left, right, left, and down onto that long straight they will go before they work their way into the Parabolica. We're still right aboard there with Low Wrigley, and right ahead of him is the 88 car of Jakustein.
Well, somebody else that's having quite a battle is Robbie Teens. He's all over the back end of Johan Engelbrecht. There you see them in the background, the black car, and then the blue, white, and the yellow behind that. Robbie Teens all over the back of Johan Engelbrecht. He'll work his way through the Parabolica. Will he be able to get a run from there? Johan Engelbrecht, Porsche is his thing. Main circuit is his thing. He knows exactly how to drive these motor cars. Robbie Teens going to have to pull one out of the bag if he wants to take that position his way. Peter van Zyl on the back end of Herman Lazarus.
Yeah, and I just saw that Jaco Forster there had the quickest time. Oh, Lazarus running onto the apron there, and that is going to bring Van Zyl right onto his case. Down the home straight they go. Van Zyl sits there on the right-hand side of Lazarus. He'll have the line for that first chicane. He just must hold his nerve. He's going to have to hold his nerve. Lazarus is going to have to back out of it, and does so. And through on Herman Lazarus goes Peter van Zyl.
Peter van Zyl is very easily in a situation there where he could have outbraked himself, and that could have made a big difference. Just before that, he actually had an off circuit. That's what happened between himself and
Lazarus.
And Herman Lazarus, and he spun it around as well. There he gets it going, and now he waits for Herman. Just pulls away slowly, waits till Herman's right there with him, moves across to the side, runs half throttle, says Herman, I went past you incorrectly, take your position back. Now we fight further for it after that. and then he went and consummated that move at the following 2 corners later. He actually went and consummated that move. So well done, very, very gentlemanly maneuver that was. Mark Devereaux still there with Johan Engelbrecht.
Yeah, there's 0.2 of a second between Engelbrecht and Devereaux, and just ahead of them is the Team Bolt car, the 23 car of Robbie Teens, and closing up onto the back of the two of them, of Engelbrecht and Devereaux, is Willem Pienaar. Pienaar sitting out there, and look who's the quickest man out there. Atti Nagel did a 150.630. So Nagel in that second position is the fastest man, as we ride aboard here with the nose cam of the Willem Pienaar Porsche, and Pienaar is 0.9 of a second just behind the man in P8, Mark Devereaux.
Well, we're hoping to see, that's almost the overrun. We're actually hoping to see a possible passing maneuver or any action with the two people in front of Willem Pienaar. That's Mark Devereaux and Johan Engelbrecht, 0.7 of a second between the two of them. But Johan Engelbrecht's doing a pretty decent job. Low Wrigley on the move.
Well, Low Wrigley sitting right on the case there of Jaco Steyn, and right in there behind him is Yasamai. There's 0.4 of a second between Samai and Wrigley, the man just ahead of him, as they work their way out of Lesmo 1 and out of Lesmo 2. That's Lesmo 2 that they're working their way out now. Now it's down the hill towards the bridge and into Ascari. Low sitting there in that 4th position. The car you see right in there behind him is a 7 car of Yasamai. We ride aboard with Low as he stares into that wing of the 88 Porsche through Ascari of Jaco Steyn.
Oh, looks like Yasamai had to take a bit of evasive action there at the same time to ensure that he didn't go into the back of a Low Wrigley. Low's lost a bit of ground now to the back of Jaco Steyn. 0.9, remember that one? 0.9. We'll see, can Low Wrigley close down on Jaco Steyn? But his best mate is up. Oh, let's just have a look here quickly. Johan Engelbrecht's been off track.
Replay here at Johan in that 99 car. That was some serious track limits on the dirt and on the grass, and that is Teens that goes through there on Engelbrecht.
Well, he came back on track again, and then thereafter he went off once again thereafter. Let's see how that one looked like. Oh, that was when he was already off the track. So let's just go one step back and we can see if we can pick that up for you. Oh yeah, there we go. Frankie's famous sausage curves.
Sausage curves.
If it doesn't go well, that's the gap that you go through to be able to get completely out of the way. Now, where do you go from here? You have a look at your telemetry, make sure that there is nobody too nearby you, and you then get going again from there. So that was what happened to him. You see everybody's just working their way past. Back to Low Wrigley, 0.3 of a second behind Jaco Steyn. A big thanks to ASAP New and Used Motor Spares. We are 8 minutes 26 into the 45 minutes. Lap number 5. We're on board with Low Wrigley. He's in 4th position behind the head honcho of iRacing South Africa, backed by Motorsports South Africa, and that is Jaco Steyn.
So of course with all this happening out there to Engelbrecht, it puts him in P13, and he's in the pits as well. He's working his way out the pits now, is Engelbrecht. So we ride aboard here with the 44 car of Low Wrigley sitting there in that 4th position, nearly 0.8 of a second just behind Jaco Steyn that's in that 3rd position. That's the only real fight out there. Then there's one a bit further down for P8, that's Willem Pienaar, and Wayne Masters that sits there in that 9th position. There is the 57 and the 20 car, and just ahead of them is Mark Devereaux. So Wayne Masters, will he look up on the inside at Pienaar? Yes, he does. He's going to break late into that chicane, and then works his way around. As a matter of fact, that is not the chicane, that's Parabolica that they're coming out of. That's the final corner that they're working their way out of, down the home straight, racing towards that very first right-left chicane.
Oh, here comes a bit of a fight back. Look at this one, Willem Pienaar. Down to a 1/10 of a second, and can he be on the right line? Yes, he is. Can he outbrake? No, he cannot. He plays it just a little bit safe, and Wayne Masters holds out on Willem Pienaar. Both of them giving one another more than enough space. But Frankie, while that's been on the go, Jaco Foster's had it all his own way up until now. Yeah. Because Luke has come to join him.
Yeah, 8/10 of a second between Foster and Nagel for that P1. It's gone up to 9, it goes to 1, so it's hovering round about the 0.8, 0.9 seconds between the two of them. And they just work their way now out of Lesmo 2 as they work their way down towards Ascari. That is what it looks like from the 78 Porsche, the iRacing SA Porsche number 78 of Atti Nagel. That sits there in that second position, working their way through the Ascari set of sweeps. They've got that 90-degree sausage curve. You don't want to climb over that. That'll break suspension for you.
He was close to it. He was close, but it was a guided close to the sausage curve.
Yeah, and exactly where his front wheels were. As they race down towards the final corner into Parabolica, they go now, and there is just under a second between Foster and Nagel as they exit the final corner.
Oh, there you can see the gap between the two of them. It's a fair amount of distance that they've got there, but at the pace that they're going, it's pretty much a second. So let's look a little bit further back from there as they come through. There's the next man coming through. That's Jaco Steyn, Low Wrigley. Yes, Samai has got a bit of gold on that motor car. It's his favourite one. Robbie Teens, a little bit lonely at this stage of the fight. Mark Derivero doing it all right ahead there of Wayne Masters. And Willem Pienaar hasn't finished the play yet.
There comes Pienaar. There's 3/10 of a second between Masters and Pienaar for P8 and 9. Here comes Pieter van Zyl across the start-finish line, and behind him is Herman Lazarus. 21 seconds behind Herman in 12th position is Reinier Hubert, and he is the second last car out there. As a matter of fact, he's crossing the start-finish line now. Just worked his way out of Parabolica as he works his way into turn number 1. Yeah, 21 seconds, and he is there in that second last position. And this is what happened to him as the lights went off and they disappeared off the line. He was in a touch-up, brother, and that's what dropped Reinier Hubert all the way down the leaderboard to second last position, just ahead of Johan Engelbrecht, who had problems of his own.
It looked to me like he actually spun up the back wheels, lost traction, and then got whacked from behind with whoever was coming along next. So a lot of the guys not using the clutches at all. He decided to try and get the power down a little bit quicker, probably popping the clutch there. And I mean, nobody else spun, so I would take it that that is why that situation did happen. So let's go back to the front end of the field. 45-minute race. We are 13 minutes into it, 7 laps down. Jaco Foster leading out, but being kept honest by that man, Atti Nagel.
And then behind the two of them, there's a lovely fight that's busy heating up there. Jaco Steyn in that third position. And he's got Low Wrigley and Yasamai, P4 and 5 right on his case. And they're a bit further down the road from Robbie Teens. Behind him is Mark Devereaux, and behind Devereaux is Wayne Masters. And right on his case is Willem Pienaar in that 57 cars. They're still fighting it out there for P8 and 9, and then nearly 11 seconds behind Pienaar is Pieter van Zyl, and right under that back wing is Lazarus. There's 8/10 of a second between van Zyl and Lazarus.
Keep an eye on the leaderboard. You'll see the ones that are in yellow. That is between a half a second and 0.999 of a second. That's in yellow. And when it goes to the orange color, that means it's within a half a second. Go back into the leaders, and let's just have a look back from Jaco Foster. If he looks in the mirror, what does he see? It looks something like that.
Yeah, it looks into the front lights of the Atti Nagel Porsche.
Frankie, you notice, sorry, you see the, you don't see the ambulance in the tow truck unless you look at the rear view. Remember where the car went off earlier on? There you can see there's the ambulance there as well. So it is a full crew in the background. It's just the camera shots we've been using. You haven't been able to see the breakdowns and the tow trucks that have been parked alongside the fire trucks as well.
Well, I'm having a look at these guys working their way out of Parabolica, and just ahead of Jaco Foster, you see that man in P13. Then he's Johan Engelbrecht. He's going to have to get a move on, because otherwise he's going to be lapped here by Foster and by Nagel pretty soon. They're heading towards that very first right-left chicane, He's busy working his way out of Curva Grande. He's Engelbrecht, and they are seriously closing up onto the back end of the 99 Porsche of Johan Engelbrecht that could possibly go a lap down.
Well, 12.9 seconds at this time where they are now. That Jaco Foster is behind Johan Engelbrecht. He's in 13. He's the last man out there on circuit. But Jaco Foster, look at those lines that he's running. Very, very neat. Jaco Foster holding on to him is Atti Nagel. Atti Nagel's got the pressure on. He's been a couple of times under half a second. Oh, that's pushing hard. That's pushing very hard. He was on the 50-meter mark. Uses all the greenery on the outside that's painted the same color as the grass, but it's got a little bit more grip than the grass. Let's just spend a little bit of time behind the steering wheel here with Jaco Foster. Underneath the bridge he goes up into 6th gear. Climbs on the brakes down to 5th, 4th. Feeds it in nicely. Missed the curb. Feed it in. Very neat. Very, very neat. And there you see, he pulled the 10th out of Atti Nagel with that one. 5th gear, waits for the last of the red lights to come on. 6th gear, stay on the left-hand side of the circuit. Line yourself up neatly when you climb on the brakes. Make sure you don't touch the paintwork at all. There's a little bit of that last white section on the inside. It's actually got a little bit of a ridge on there, so you stay away from that. Use that extra runoff area that you've got to get the flow out of the corner. Get good drive out of that corner because it carries you all the way past the start-finish line and down to Wosi. Jaco Steyn is one of the first people that's gone into the pits, right down through the gearbox, down into second. He's still on the brakes as he goes down into second and starts to change the line nice and neatly through there. Nothing wrong with that. Got onto the gas nice and smoothly. Takes up to half a second between himself and Jaco Foster. Blind drive around the corner, but the green lights were on, so you keep your foot down up into 6th, keep it there just before you get to the shadow of the bridge. Work it in nice and neatly over those sausage curves, and make sure that you miss that under the Fly Emirates bridge, and that's a lap with your leader Jaco Foster.
I'm going to tell you right here, right now, that Jaco Steyn got a drive-through penalty because he was through and out the other side. He's dropped down to P11. You're not going to go pit 17 minutes into this one. If you're going to pit, it'll be somewhere between 25 and 30, I would say. So I'm almost certain that Jaco Steyn received a drive-through penalty, and if that's the case, finding himself down in P11, this could cost Jaco Steyn dearly at the end of the day. In the one side. And no, he did stop. I see him just stop in there behind the safety car. So that was a very quick stop and a very odd time to go and make your pit stop. So I apologize to Jaco because he wasn't in that pits that long, and I just saw the car zip out. So initially I thought that was a possible stop go, or should I say a drive-through penalty.
You know what, Frankie, I think you might be correct, because that camera shot that we had there was not that wasn't the colors of his motor car. That was the colors of possibly the pace car.
No, there was a car that stopped behind the pace car.
So Jaco Steyn, let's see if we can pick it up here quickly. Let's see the real deal. Jaco Steyn, hard on the brakes, down into first.
Just cruising down the pit lane is Jaco Steyn. Yeah, that's definitely a stop. Otherwise, would have been on the black tarmac working his way out. So yes, he did come in for a very, very quick pit stop. Steyn of Gazoo Racing and iRSA SA, and worked his way out the pits very, very quickly. But the point I'm trying to make in all of this is the fact that it's a very early pit stop. He was about 16-17 minutes before he made his way into the pit area. That's dropped him all the way down to P11, and it's going to be a mighty strong race required by Jaco Steyn to try and get into the top 3. But then he's made his pit stop, and let's hope that he can make it all the way to the checkered flag, as these two gentlemen are still going one-on-one for that first position. 0.4 of a second between Foster and Nagel, P1 and P2. as they worked their way out that final corner, heading towards the parabolic. And there you just saw Johan Engelbrecht ahead of them. That black 99 Porsche is working its way now out of the parabolic as the two front runners work their way through parabolic. So yes, there's 7.4 seconds between Foster and Engelbrecht ahead of him, who is a back marker.
What was it when I last met? I think it was 12.4, if I remember correctly. So they've literally halved the gap. Look at that, 13.7 Jaco Steins, 13.9 Johan Engelbrecht. That is the standstill time while they were in the pits. What does that tell us? The reaction time was slightly quicker from Jaco Stein as opposed to Johan Engelbrecht by 0.2 of a second. You did not, Wayne Masters coming into the pits, you didn't actually see the car lift up at all, so it looks like it's just fuel stops and nothing else. And there goes Willem Pina coming straight past him.
Right, so Masters in the pits, Pina working his way past. There's a fight there for that third position between Wrigley and Samai, as the two of them work their way towards that second left-right chicane. Just working their way out of it now. Before that, they went through Curva Grande. They're now working their way towards Lesmo 1, and that is Low Wrigley in that third position. And there is 0.4 of a second between himself, or make that 0.2 of a second, because under braking, Yasamai is right under that back wing of the 44 Porsche of Wrigley. Racing down now towards Ascari. They come now, and Samai looks up on the inside. Yasamai moves to his left hand side and then decides to bail out of it and pull in there behind Low Wrigley.
I think this is one of Low's best races to date, if you think about it. He's always joking and saying, oh, one day I'll be on the pace of the top guys. Well, he's one of the top guys out there, no doubt about it. Talking about top guys, Ati Nagel says, good evening, Jaco Foster, wat maak jy?
So, Jaco Stein has progressed up the leaderboard. He is now in that 9th position after being there in a P11. Due to a couple of pit stops, Masters was in the pits, Renier Hubert was in the pits as well. So Jaco Stein has then moved up, and he's got Lazarus there with him. And we'll have a look at that one. I think he probably just got his nose ahead of Lazarus there as we watch Yasamai attack Low Wrigley, going into that chicane there. And then from there working their way towards Curva Grande. Yes, it was Jaco Stein that made the move stick there on Herman Lazarus.
Herman went slightly wide, Jaco went slightly tighter, and as Herman came back towards the normal line, well, he was already in at that stage of the fight, and you're not going to get rid of him at that stage. Well, I mean, that's what racing's all about. If the gap is there, you don't go for it. You are no longer a racer.
So, they are now on the case of back marker, which is Johan Engelbrecht. They are literally 4.7 seconds behind him as he goes under the bridge, heading towards Ascari, the back marker. There you just see him flash through your picture as you watch P1 and 2 work their way through Ascari now. And that is Foster and Nagel, and they are inch by inch, meter for meter, closing up onto the 99 Porsche of Johan Engelbrecht.
Yep, you're going to see it coming into the screen there in the back. There you can see it. That's Yasamai on Low Wrigley. Let's go to that one. There you can see the gap between the two of them. Pretty much the same as between Ati Nagel and Jaco Foster. And then just a little bit further back from that, there comes Robbie Teams. He's had a very lonely race so far today, as has Mark Devereaux.
But not much, 1.5 seconds really isn't much between them. There at the back you just see Willem Pina come into view, making his way.
That guy?
Yeah, that guy.
And
go. Behind him is a Pieter van Zyl.
That
so
guy.
There's 4.1 seconds between van Zyl and Pina, the guy that's just ahead of him. And then the next man should be, yes it is Jaco Stein. And yes, he did make the move there on Lazarus. Is only about 1.3 seconds or nearly 1.3 seconds ahead of Lazarus in that 10th position, and then 10.6, nearly 11 seconds behind them is Reinier Hubert. But Reinier in the Wild Rose Gin car is slowly but surely closing the gap there on everybody. Just systematically, Reinier is getting slightly closer to Steyn and Lazarus.
Yas Samai riding on board with him. Fourth place, Yas Samai, 25 of the 45 minutes done. That means we've passed halfway already. They've done 14 laps. Nobody in the first 8 have... Ooh, that was right over the top of the curb there. He should make that gap a little bit smaller as they go down the straight. No, he didn't do much better. It stays... Well, now there he starts making up. Now it goes to 0.78, 0.77, 0.76. So, yeah, initially it was about the same speed coming out of the corner, but thereafter started catching up just a little. I think Yas Samai is starting to push the edges just a little bit frankly to try and catch up. He is in general slightly faster, but then in pushing that a little bit harder, there are spots where he loses 1, 2, 3 tenths again, and that's what keeps the gap open between them. Atinachel has got a much nicer view of the car in front of him than was Yas Samai's got, because he's within a half a second.
Yeah, well, we are now 26 minutes into 45, so I think we are slowly but surely approaching the orthodox pit window as Atinachel under braking sails in there behind the JV workshop outfit of Jaco Forster, and just ahead of them is Engelbrecht. There they go, just behind Engelbrecht, who is the back marker. That's Low Wrigley coming into view, and Mark Devereaux hits pit lane. 26 minutes. Mark Devereaux is the first of the top half dozen cars to make his way into the pit lane, and so does Peter van Zyl.
So Robbie Teens has now worked his way through, and there comes the next man, Willem Pina, and well, he's already worked his way past there, Jaco Steyn. Now Jaco Steyn remains the lead car that has been into the pits already. How far is he going to be when Jaco Forster comes out from Jaco Forster and Atinachel? Will Jaco Forster and Atinachel go in at the same time? I tend to think that Atinachel might pull the pin and go for a earlier pit stop, just like dive out on the last and into the pits, hope to get a quick lap. Maybe the crew chief makes a bit of an error on Jaco Forster's car and you can take over the lead like that. They're still coming up behind Johan Engelbrecht, 2.7, and that of the 12.8 that there originally was between himself and Johan Engelbrecht.
I just saw Devereaux and Van Zyl a while ago make their way back out onto the circuit. So now let's have a look-see. This is the final corner. Nearly 28 minutes done. Are these two gents going to hit pit lane? They are.
Together?
They are going to hit pit lane together. Forster and Nagel in. So the two of them are in, approaching 28 minutes. I was saying we are approaching the orthodox pit window time. Who will go in? Low Wrigley comes in as well, and Yas Samai does not. Yas Samai goes through, and for now Samai is in the lead.
Well, he goes right through to that front position. So Yas Samai is leading him out. Robbie Teens is in as well. Where's Robbie Teens? Here's Robbie coming in. Robbie Teens. What about Willem Pina? What does Willem Pina do? Works his way through the corner, and it looks like he's going to join.
He does. Into pit lane comes the man with Castrol, Willem Pina into pit lane.
So what happens to the real deal, Jaco Steyn? You got to keep it coming, Mark. You got to keep it coming, because this is where he's going to make up whatever positions there are to be had. Right, he's up into 6th, up into 5th. Where's Low Wrigley? Low Wrigley is out of the pits already. So Jaco Steyn finds himself in that 5th position. Yas Samai, what's going to happen? Let's see. Willem Pina is still in there. Herman Lazarus is in there behind him. There, Herman Lazarus has just stopped. Remember, he had a stop earlier on, did Herman Lazarus, if I remember correctly. So he will end up on 2 pit stops in total, if I've got it correct. So the other man that's still going to come in is then the man that's leading the race. That's Yas Samai. Now the black number 1 with a green around it, that in fact is Yas Samai. And if you look in the top end of your screen, coming out of Lesmo 2, coming down Saraglio, that is the 2nd place man, that's Atinachel. So now the gap is 22 seconds. What's the chances that Yas Samai can come out in front of them? I don't think so.
Well, let's have a look-see, because Nagel and Forster have resumed that fight, which could potentially be for 1st and 2nd. if Samai hits pit lane now, which he does now, Samai will want to get in and out ahead of Nagel and Foster. They will want to leapfrog him and regain that first and second and continue that fight for P1 and 2. The only difference would be is that I think early on, yes, Foster was ahead of Nagel. Now Nagel is ahead of Foster. That's the only difference. And there they come, down the home straight, and they are going to go back into first and second positions as wheel spinning out of the pit lane in that third position is Yas Samai.
So as we follow Yas Samai as he comes out, that's as he comes out. Anything nearby behind him, 4 seconds of 3.2, 3.1, 2.9. Wow, Low Wrigley was on a flyer down the front main and he closed up a lot of ground. Looking back from Yas Samai to Low Wrigley, probably his best race for a long time. A big thanks to Low Wrigley that made it possible for our last fun race to happen and be broadcast. And nice to see that he finds himself in the top 5. Having said all that, Jaco Foster, Atti Nagel, the game's not over.
Big thanks to ASAP, new and used parts. They are in Pretoria West, and their website is asapspares.co.za. A big thanks to them for sponsoring the MSA Porsche Cup Club Series, and brought to you by Second Gear Productions as we watch the front runners head towards Ascari 2/10 of a second. There is now nothing between the two of them. As a matter of fact, here comes Van Zyl on Pienaar and dives through on the inside, and that was a lovely move going into that second chicane where Van Zyl made the move there on Pienaar. They are now heading into Lesmo 1.
So, can Jaco Foster make a plane with Atti Nagel? Remember, Atti Nagel's been there, done that. He's the success story of 2022, latter half and the early part of 2023. He's come of age. We pretty much expect to see him near the front end of the field these days because he doesn't make... Why is he right up against the pit wall?
Right up against that pit wall there is Nagel.
How to break the toe. Go right up against the pit wall.
That was the whole idea, and if it was, it didn't work because it's just gone and kept Foster exactly where he is, 3/10 of a second behind Nagel. This one's not over yet. We are approaching 12 minutes before we see the checkered flag, and the Jaco Foster JV Workshop sitting there in that second position, chasing down the 78 Porsche there of Atti Nagel, working their way now through that second left-right hairpin. There's chicane. There's two of them out there. Just before you get Curva Grande is the first one, and then after Curva Grande is the second one, and that takes you into Lesmo 1 and into Lesmo 2. That's Lesmo 2 they're working their way through now, and then from there downhill under the bridge towards Ascari, just under 3/10 of a second so far between Nagel and Foster.
Okay, Frankie, stick your neck out. Do you think Jaco Foster is going to go and have a dive at some point on Atti Nagel?
I think he will. He's not going to settle for that second position, that's for sure. And I'm sure that Nagel knows this as well. So right now we've got, about 12 minutes to go before we see the checkered flag. So I don't believe that Foster will make a move now, if he's going to make a move. Although you never know with motorsport. She can be a very cruel mistress. And if you don't lunge now and you make a mistake, then you could have thrown your chances away. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yep, let's go to that. Which side do you cover? He moves towards the middle of the track. He says, "You find a way past." I'm gonna stick my neck out one step further. Frankly, I'm gonna say I do think Jaco Foster's gonna have a dive on Atti Nagel, and I'm gonna go one step further. I'm gonna go as far as to say, having had chatted to Jaco Foster on numerous occasions, the way he comes across as a thorough gentleman, I predict that if Jaco Foster goes for a move on Atti Nagel and it doesn't work, he will wait and give that position back to Atti Nagel and then carry on from there. You'll rather take a second behind Atti Nagel than beat him by knocking him And the other reason why I say that is there's 11 seconds back to Yasamai. So should he make an error, he being Jaco Forster, he can try and rectify it as a gentleman, and they still stay ahead of Yasamai. Remember, Yasamai comes across the two of them, and they've spun off. He's just going to go straight through. He's nothing to do with their gentlemanly manner that riding at this stage of the fight.
Well, you're talking about 11 seconds between Forster and Samai. That's true, but there's only 0.8 of a second between Samai and Wrigley that is in there behind him. That's for 3 and 4. That's the 2 cars that's going through a screen there. So Low Wrigley just under a second behind Samai at this stage of the game as they head towards Ascari in that fight for P4, 3 and 4. Through Ascari they go now. Currently it is Samai that's there in that 3rd position and Wrigley in that 4th position. I've been watching Jaco Steyn. There he comes out the background. He's 7.7. He had it down to about 7.3 at one stage of the game. That's about a lap or so ago, and he's not really closing up onto the back of Samai and Wrigley.
Oh, Jaco Forster coming up. Here we go. Adenagel, Jaco Forster. Nope, too close to the braking markers. Not going to be able to do it there. He's doing a Troy Dolan check. He's sitting right on the back bumper and still finding the brake markers.
Right, there they go. And they are now heading towards Curva Grande. That is that curve just after that first and the second hairpin is Nagel and Forster. As a matter of fact, now Samai and Wrigley have just made their way out of that right-left chicane. They're making their way through Curva Grande. There's Jaco Steyn. He is in that 5th position. It's gone up. It's gone up from 7.7 to 8.4. So Steyn, if anything, is losing ground to Samai and Wrigley.
Can Jaco Forster make a move on Adenagel? It's starting to look a bit doubtful. Can Low Wrigley make a move on Yasamai? It's starting to look a bit doubtful. Can Renier Hubert make a move on Robbie Teams that's driving faultlessly for the last 10, 11, 12 laps? I almost don't think so. I am going to stick my neck out and say with 8 minutes to go, they're going to end in the positions that they are now, and because of commentators' curse, one of those 3 positions will, one of those 3 battles will change up.
Hats off to Renier Hubert. He was in that 12th position once upon a time after having an issue at the start, and by clawing his way back and with pit stops, he's now moved himself into that 7th position, and he is challenging Robbie Teams for that P6. So at this point in time, Hubert has got a big fat tick next to his name by me as he chases down the 23 car of Teams. That's the Wild Rose Gin car, chasing down the Team Bolt car. And talking about chasing down the JV Workshop car, he's chasing down the iRacing SA car there of Nagel. And as I talk, as I sing the praises for Renier Hubert, I see he's in pit lane.
Oopsie, that's a pity that he's gone in there. Let's just have a look, see why Wayne Masters is so far down. Wayne Masters in the 20 car, coming down the front main. Let's see what happens to him. Comes in a bit hard.
Just locked up, and the tail end just stepped out slightly, hopping over that sausage curve.
That didn't cost him too much time. Let's just see if there's any other incidents of Wayne Masters that we can pick up. We saw that he did a normal pit stop as well. When he came into the pits, that looked all normal. There was nothing fancy there. So it must have been something that we missed a little bit further back, because I don't see anything else that has caused him to be that far back as what he is now. So having said that, 39 minutes 11 seconds of the 45, 5 minutes and 45 seconds left. Jaco Forster for Olas, can he make a plan? Low Wrigley for Olas, can he make a plan?
Well,
yes, he can. Look how close he is. Yep. He's within 1/10 of a second.
Well, he's going to have a lunge, but it's not going to work. He's way off that racing line. It's a right hand. He went to go park from the left hand side there of Yasumai. But here we go. Nagel and Forster side by side. He is not on the line. Forster is going to be very brave to lunge, and he's not going to, because that would probably just take both of them out if he went for a move there. So Nagel says to Jaco Forster, not yet, not now. We still got, 5 minutes left, and Low Wrigley is on the case of Samai as well, as they stomp on the loud pedal, working their way through Curva Grande towards that second hairpin, and just in there behind them in P5 is Steyn. But Steyn is in trouble. He's now 9.4 seconds behind the combination of Samai and Wrigley.
Okay, so Frankie, Jaco Forster, Nagel with 4.5 minutes to go. Your prediction?
I don't know. It's going to be very, very tough, because you're going to give a prediction between Samai and Wrigley as well, which is going to be very, very tough. I don't know. Either one of these gentlemen have the potential of winning this one. Nagel and Forster, they haven't put a wheel out of line. They haven't made one mistake as they work their way through Ascari. And I think it's going to come down to the last lap or two. If I was Forster, I would just stay where I am, not make any moves. There's 12.8 seconds between himself and Samai. He's got the best seat in the house in this fight between himself and Nagel. Just sit on the case there of Nagel and apply the pressure on Nagel and hope that Nagel makes a mistake. As a matter of fact, I would give that same advice to Low Wrigley. Just sit on the case of Yasamai and just pressurize him all the way. And if he makes a mistake, well, then it's a freebie for you.
Well, it looks like Low Wrigley actually went a little bit wider there, so initially he will lose ground. Will that slingshot him a little bit closer? No, either way it's not going to make a difference. But keeping in mind that Yasamai is holding out Low Wrigley, the two of them are still able to keep ahead of that man, Jaco Steyn, and that takes some doing.
Yeah, he's nearly 10 seconds behind Wrigley now, so I think Steyn is settled for that 5th position. But 8.9 behind him is Robbie Teings in the Ting Bolt car that sits there in that 6th position. Coming through there, then behind him is Devereaux. Devereaux is nearly 11 seconds behind Teings and Peter van Zyl. 4.4. Van Zyl is getting a little closer there to Mark Devereaux.
I'm starting to think that Jaco Forster has pulled every trick that he can. There is nothing more in the tank. I don't think Jaco Forster is going to be able to beat. Has Nagel had a win in the series yet? I don't think so.
I'm not too sure. We do so much of this that I think he might have had a win before. But either way, it's a lovely fight between himself and Forster for that 1st position. Wayne Masters put up a personal best of a 152.149 by Wayne. As a matter of interest, sitting there in that 12th position as this fight continues into Parabolica between Nagel and Forster. As a matter of fact, Gary, Yasamai is now beginning to get away under Low Wrigley. He's now just over a second ahead of Wrigley.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much said and done between Yasamai and Low Wrigley. Jaco Steyn remaining around about the 9.6 to the 9.9. Nothing much different there. And then Robbie Teings to Jaco Steyn, also around about the 9.9 most of the time. So that's not going to change, I don't think. Mark Devereaux 11 seconds further back. I don't believe that's going to change. And let's see, where's our leader right now? Next time he comes through will be probably to get the white flag, Nagel. I think if Ati's ever hoped for the end of a race, it's around about now.
Yeah, it looks like Nagel wants to try and get away because it's 0.5 of a second. And as I said earlier on, I said that Samai was getting away from Wrigley. Well, he was, but no, excuse me, no more, because Wrigley is fighting right back, and there's 0.3 of a second between Samai and Wrigley.
I think this is the last gasp ever, when it was up to 1.2, I think it was, not that long ago between the two of them. I thought, okay, well, that's it. End of it. Yasamai from Low Wrigley, and Low Wrigley all over the outside of the circuit. Well, there's not much time left. It's 44 minutes and 26 seconds. Here comes Nagel. And I do believe this is the last time he's going to go through the Ascari chicane. He's on his way down towards Parabolica, and it's going to be on 45 minutes when they come across the line. So I think this is the last little show of these two around the Parabolica.
Well, there is 7 seconds left. Are they going to get the checkered flag before that 7 seconds are up? Or are they going to do another lap? They're going to get the checkered flag. The checkered flag is out, and Atinagel comes home in P1, 6/10 of a second ahead of Jaco Forster.
That was a brilliant drive by the two of them, I must say.
Oh, he's through! He's
Can
through!
you believe it?
Wrigley has gone through. I think Samai went a little bit wide, and yes, Samai will be kicking himself as he loses that third position to Low Wrigley and ends 5/10 of a second behind Low Wrigley for P3 and 4.
He had it in the bag. Well done, Jaco Steyn, always doing all the work in the background, coming up with a 5th position there. The bolt man, Robbie Teings, waves it as he comes across the line. He says, I don't mind, outside of the top 5, I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, Robbie Teings 11.4 seconds behind Jaco Steyn, and then 11.2 behind Teings is Mark Devereaux and Pieter van Zyl. Caught right up onto him. He was only 2.2 seconds behind Mark Devereaux.
Yep.
There comes Devereaux across the line, and the man that I spoke about, 2.2 just behind him there, is Pieter van Zyl. Willem Pienaar, 13 seconds behind van Zyl. He will be in 9th position, and Renier Hubert
just spun on the last corner.
Oh, just didn't work out for him. He will finish in that 10th position, and he will be 13.4 behind Pienaar.
Let's just have a look at that one. I'm pretty sure that he actually spun the car around on the last corner, the Wildrose Gin car. Yes!
Through Parabolica, he turns it around. Weird place to spin a car around.
Very much so. Oh, he did a nice job of parking in the middle of the track without anybody touching him. And he gets it going again, so all's well that ends well. I mean, if you're going to do it, you might as well end it up all in style. And that pretty much wraps that one up. Everybody has come across the line, and they're starting to work their way back into the pits.
And Masters got to the flag just ahead of Lazarus, and there was 100th of a second between Masters and Lazarus for that 11th position, which was claimed by Wayne Masters.
100th of a second, otherwise known as 15 thousandths of a second for Herman Lazarus and Wayne Masters. So let's have a look at the final results for this one, for the 45-minute race, round number 6 for 2023 of the MSA Porsche Cup Series. Driver of the day?
Pieter van Zyl.
I think so.
I will go for Pieter van Zyl, yes, because he fought back tremendously well, and my bad luck I would give to Renier Hubert.
Driver of the day, I would tend to give to Atiyaku, Low, Yaz and Yak. No, driver of the day, I think Atinagel, because I don't think he's won one of these straight out yet. For a very, very, very strong showing, very consistent Jaco Forster, for probably one of his best ever Low Wrigley. He doesn't class himself as being one of the fastest, but he in fact is becoming one of the fastest out there. Jas Samaya, that soos in Afrikaans sê, hy het koning gekry verlede seisoen. And now he's done a couple of the Porsche races as well. He's back in there, but the other guys have gotten a little bit quicker. He initially was the man to catch, Jas Samai, and the asymmetric racing car. And then Jaco Steyn, he hasn't had that much time to practice. He's been doing massive amounts of homework for the GT3s. And yeah, that is where he finds himself in a 5th position.
So that concludes the MSA Porsche Cup Series, brought to you by ASAP New and Used Motor Spares in Pretoria West, and brought to you by Second Gear Productions. Next up will be Monday evening, the Renault Clio Cup. That's going to be something fantastic, and hopefully we'll see you on Wednesday with the new series that Luke Lucchesi is putting together, that is going to be pretty interesting, that will replace the original Master Series. So we're looking forward to Monday, and if the other one is in place, well, then we'll see you on Wednesday as well.
8 very successful seasons of Western Province Sports and GT Masters based on a Sports and GT Kalani International Raceway, and we will be back there on the 29th of this month for Kalani International's next round of the regionals. On behalf of Second Year Productions, on behalf of the voice of West Province Motorsport, Frank Kiernes, the voice of SA Oval, Gary Fleming, we say good night to you one and all. Thanks very much for joining us, and we hope that you enjoyed this round number 6 MSA Porsche Cup 2023. Good night, everybody.